Hi, I'm Bruce Eckel,
And I'm James Ward.
and this is First Steps in Flex, and we're going to look at drag and drop, which is a pretty important way that people are used to interacting with their system.
Definitely.
So with Flex, are there any limits to drag and drop? I mean, as long as you're working within a Flex application, I suppose.
Right, yeah. In a Flex application, in the browser, you can drag and drop between any UI components. So anything visual on the screen, you can drag anything you want from anywhere to anywhere inside of that enclosed application.
So do all components have some built-in support for drag and drop?
Yep, exactly.
Which is another benefit of having a component-based model.
Yep, definitely. Yeah, so there's a drag manager which manages the drag and drop interactions in a Flex application. Then if you're outside the browser in an Air application built with Flex, then you can do additional drag and drop operations. So you can drag and drop between the local file system or any application you want and the Flex application in Air. But when you're in the browser, you're limited to just that application being able to do drag and drop.
Now, what if you had two different Flex apps within a web page?
Unfortunately, they can't drag and drop between each other. There are some ways that people have simulated it, but it's not natively.
Sounds like it could
supported.
be a security issue.
Could be, yeah.
Okay. So, well, can we see a simple example of what drag and drop
So
looks like?
let's build a simple example for drag and drop. Drag, drop. So in this one, we're going to use some out-of-the-box drag and drop functionality in the list controls in Flex. So lists and data grids can enable drag and drop because this is a pretty common use case where you want to drag something from one list to another, drag it out of the list to some place. This is a common enough interaction that the list controls in Flex just implemented this on their own. And so you don't have to manage all of the kind of plumbing to do the drag and drop. So let's get started here with this application. So the first thing we need is some data. So we're going to have some just data hard-coded in this application, just some sample data. So let's create an array collection and set the ID of that to buddies. So these are my buddies. And inside of here, let's have a string. So this could be really any data you want. It could be something more complex than just strings, of course. And so I'm going to copy and paste this a few times and come in and change some values. So we'll have Sean and Sam and Seth and Sally. Those are my buddies. And then the other thing that's going to hold some data is another array collection. And this one's going to be my attendees. So what this is going to allow the user to do is drag buddies to be attendees. And so now let's add our list. So let's add the first list here. Set the data provider on this list to be buddies. So the first list is going to display our buddies. And let's set the width to 300. And then let's add a label that will say drag items between the lists. That's just letting the user know that they can drag these things. And then let's add the list that we will drag these things to. So we're going to set the data provider on this one to attendees and set the width to 300. Okay, so that's our basic application. No drag and drop at this point. So let's run this one and see what it looks like so far. So here we get our first list with our items in it. We can select those items, but you see we can't drag them yet. And so that's what we're going to go do now is enable the drag and drop so that we can actually grab one of these things, drop it down into the list below. There's a few parameters we need to set on these lists in order to enable this. So the first one we want to set is drag enabled. So we're going to do drag enabled on this one, set it to true. And let's also set a property here called drag move enabled and set that to true. What that will allow us to do is rather than do a copy when we drag, it's going to do a move. So we'll actually be moving my buddies into the attendees array collection, not copying them. So now down in our attendees, let's add some properties here. What I'm going to set is drop enabled and set that to true. And that's good for now. Let's give this a try. So here we go. We've got our list, and now should be able to pick up Sean and drag him down. You'll see that I get some feedback there. It's got the red X where I can't drop him. But when I mouse over this other list, then that X goes away, and we even see a little indicator in the list saying we can drop Sean into this list. So now I let go of my mouse cursor, and now Sean moves from the first list to
and the reason that it moved was because drag move was enabled, and if it wasn't enabled, it would make a copy.
If we turn off drag move enabled, then it will make a copy. Yep. So if we turn that to false, we can actually see that happening. Where now when I drag and drop Sean, now we get Sean in both places, and that's not the functionality we wanted. So let's go back to true. Now let's set a few other properties here on these lists. So there's another cool one here just built into the list where we can say allow multiple selection is true. So now what this will allow us to do is, in this list, we can now select more than one. We can do that with the Control and Shift keys. So while I'm holding down Control, I selected multiple ones. Now we can pick up both Sean and Seth and move them both down. That's great. We can also do Shift, where I Shift select them and move them all down as well. So that's the enabled through the Allow Multiple Selection. There's a few other things we can do. So let's say we want to be able to drag these things back to the first list. Then to enable that, what we're going to do is just set drop enabled to true on our top one there. And then on our bottom one, let's set the same properties that we had up top. So I'm just going to actually copy and paste these to that list as well. So now both lists enable both drag and drop both ways and multiple select. So let's reload. Here, let's select some, move them down. Let's select Seth, move him back. And now we get, dragging and dropping between our attendees and our buddies. And we can even, you'll see that I get that feedback when I'm dragging them. I can just specify where I want to move that particular item to. So some great out-of-the-box functionality for drag and drop. Let's say we had some other component sitting over here, some other part of our application. We could also pick up Sean, drag him to that other component. Using the drag manager, we could tell the drag manager that drag is allowed, which would allow us to handle the drop and those sorts of things.
So now we've got these two lists, and it seems like they're all set up to do this. Are there other components that are set up to do this, or do you have to hand wire in a lot of stuff if you want to do drag and drop?
Most of the components that are not list-based controls, you have to hand code the interactions. You basically set up, you tell the drag manager, all right, I want to be able to handle a drop of this type. And then when something begins dragging and mouses over that component, then the drag manager notifies that component and says, I'm going to, there's someone mousing over you that wants to drop this. Then you have to handle that and say, all right, now I want to remove the X. You can change what it looks like when you're dragging these objects. Right now it's just doing simple string, label. If we wanted to have an image or whatever we want, we can override that through the drag manager as well. So there's a lot of information about the drag manager in the Flex documentation, but the drag manager is really what enables all of this. The methods here are just convenience methods on top of what the drag manager is doing.